Hello and welcome back to NHB Retro. We've got another super cool project to build on the bench today, and this is the Mockingboard clone for the Apple II from Reactive Micro. This looks like a really fun project. I've been wanting to put one of these together for a while now, and yeah, I just got it in the UPS this morning. So let's unpackage it and just see what we're looking at. This is the assembly guide, obviously. It's extensive. I'm not sure how much that we'll actually need, though. But this is the basic package that you get. Apologies if there are storm sounds in the background. It seems like we're getting a little weather here in Oregon today. So basically, yeah, nicely packaged up. We've got all of our components. Resistors and capacitors and such. Not too many. There's a few. Got a cable, all the chips and sockets that we're going to need. This board does support 2 additional speech chips that are somewhat optional, and they're not included in the kit, but it does include the 2 sound chips. So I'll keep my eye out for those speech chips, but they seem to be pretty rare. And then, of course, we have the board itself. Really nice looking board. Got a little hologram there. Reactive Micro. Reactive Micro, by the way, not sponsored, but they just do a great job. There's so many cool things on their site for Apple II enthusiasts. But yeah, very clearly labeled. Everything has values. And yeah, so that's the basic kit. Should be really fun to put together. Let's get started. My basic plan of attack for getting the components on here is going to be to start with the tiny diodes, move on to the resistors, and then the capacitors and the sockets and whatever else is left, the output jack, etc. So let's get started with these diodes. There are 2 of them. They are the same. Of course, diodes are a polarized component, so you have to be careful about the direction that they go in, which should be clearly marked on the board. Let's see if that's the case. And yes. They have a plus and a minus side, and the diodes themselves have a little stripe that is on the minus side. Try to get these legs bent as neatly as possible, but sometimes that's a little bit tricky. There we go. So 1 in place. I'm going to do this. I'm just going to go ahead and solder these. I will switch over and get some microscope view of the other soldering as we get to that point. Okay, we got those in. That's pretty good. And there we go, our first components on, and that is all of the diodes. Now let's move on to the resistors. All right, switch the camera up to get a little bit closer view. I've moved the board onto the microscope stage. We're just going to go ahead and get the 10 ohm resistors installed. There are two of them. So just a matter of getting the legs bent. And again, these values are printed right on the board, not really at this point using the assembly instructions, which some of the instructions for the structure actually not there's a lot of pages there. There's not an actual instruction that basically says read the values that are on the board. Yeah, which is fine. All right. So those are both on there. Let's go ahead and get them soldered on. My fan is attempting to blow things away. All right, and there are our first two resistors on the board. And I went ahead and did the rest of the resistors off camera. Not probably my prettiest work, but they are all on there. And again, it was really easy to follow along just with the values that were clearly marked on the silk screen. Really didn't need any more instruction than that. All right, next step, I believe will be starting with the lowest profile capacitors. Actually, on second thought, I think what makes the most sense to do next is get the sockets in place. They're a little bit lower profile, I think, even than the capacitors. So I'm just going to get these all set in here, use a little bit of tape to hold them down in place, and then get these soldered. The only thing, of course, with to watch out for with the sockets is that you get the little notches aligned with what's in the silk screen, and on this board in particular, most of them are faced in the same direction, but these over here are actually face in the opposite direction. So that's just something to be a little bit careful of. I'm going to get all these set in here carefully, and we'll proceed from there. Look at these sides. Okay, I've got all the sockets set in place. I've got gratuitous amount of painter's tape holding them on. That's mostly just so I can get them flipped over, because really this pressure, downward pressure of on the table should serve to keep those straight. I'm of course only going to be soldering just the diagonal pins on each one, and then I will have a chance to adjust them afterwards. But let's get one of these tacked down here. Alrighty, just like that, we've got all of the sockets down. All of the notches are in the correct orientation. They all look pretty flat. Now we can move on to getting those capacitors. Alright, let's go ahead and get those capacitors on there. Just as with all the other components so far, the board is very clearly labeled. The bags were not labeled, but the counts are very unique, so it's very easy to figure out which are which. The only slight gotcha with capacitors, of course, is that some of them are polar and some of them are not. The board is pretty much marked with correct polarities. However, at least for instance, in the case of my kit, some capacitors that are probably usually polar and have polarities here, they sent ones that were not polar, which is fine. It's just a little bit of a confusion because you'll end up with capacitors like this one that don't have a marking for polarity, but there is a polarity marked on the circuit board. Anyway, yeah, let's go ahead and get these in here, and I will go ahead and show you some soldering of one of them, and then I'll just skip forward and get the rest of them all on there. All right, I've got the output jack installed. Got the connector for the speaker cable installed. Let's get the chips put in place, and then we should be ready for a test, which will be very exciting. I always use a chip leg straightener just to kind of make sure things are as they need to be. I'm going to line up the notches. This is the AY38913. There are two of these. Second one in there. Really go straight. And there are obviously again next to the clear link of the board, there are two RC522P chips that you go in. Pretty easy to get the leg bent on these big chips, so let's check that. Alright, these two sockets are the voice chips that I don't have. They're optional. Let's see here. Got this small floppy chip. This is a 74LS5. There's only one socket for this one fit. Nice. And we have two small chips here. I'm not sure they are. LM310 maybe. Yeah. These are identical as well. And I think I mentioned earlier, these two are the ones where the notch in the socket shows the opposite direction of the other, all the chips on board. So, make sure we got those right. That's good. Well, these are actually new. Some of them I think were probably recovered chips. I'll probably get the new ones into the legs and not in straight much. Yeah, all right, and there we go. The completed board. Let's get some software copied onto disks and boot up an Apple II and see what happens. All right, everybody meet Stuart. Stuart is my Apple IIe Platinum edition, and I'm guessing originally in its life. It was part of some school system that had the name Stewart, because it is written on there several times in very permanent marker. Anyway, I have the Mockingboard clone installed in Stewart. I have Stewart hooked up to some sadly not very good speakers. And I have the Sweet Microsystems Mockingboard diskette in the drive. Let's get it booted up and see, or rather hear, what we hear. I'm just going to transfer. All right, let's go ahead and first we'll check out some of the sound effects. My speakers are a little bit crappy. Let's see here. That's pretty interesting. Okay, those were some sound effects. Let's check out some music. The speech option is not available on this card because I do not have these speech chips installed. Yeah, let's go with Pop Goes the Weasel. And a little bit of Sugar Plum Fairy. All right, that's going to do it for this episode on NHB Retro, where we built the Mockingboard clone from Reactive Micro and played a little bit of music and some sounds on it. Hopefully you enjoyed it, and I will catch you on the next one.